Good day. Today on the Third Wheel Podcast, me and Caleb will be talking about movies. Multiverse or multi-curse? Happily ever after? Not until Arnold shows up. That and more on the Third Wheel Podcast. Welcome back to the Third Wheel Podcast. I'm Shaps.
I'm Caleb.
And welcome. Thank you for joining us today, where you get to be the third wheel in our conversation. Just want to give you a little update / recap on our Harry Potter series. I am
previously on Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, I am enjoying it so very, very much. We are going to be a little bit delayed for the next book, only because it's a little bit thicker and my life is getting a little bit busier. So apologies in advance for that. But it's going to be a good one because I'm very excited. Definitely waiting to get into it. Caleb's already started.
The biggest thing is I don't want to disappoint our fans. I say fans plural generously. Toodles, I'm very sorry. I really wish. I'm trucking along, but Shaps, like I said, he's got a lot of stuff going on with work, and he has set a time to read it. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen as quickly as possible. On top of that, we also got to coordinate with Sydney whenever we finally finish, and then we have to see is she ready? Is she ready to do the next one? So we're doing our best. We are trying to work through it. I do apologize. I really want to get it done for you because I know you're really excited, and I enjoy engaging with you in the comments. I enjoy hearing your stuff. And then we could probably do an episode where we talk about the franchise as a whole, and I'd love to hear your opinion on that. I am so sorry we couldn't get this once a month like we had planned, but books 4 and 5 are going to be just a little bit of a challenge just because of how long they are. You know how much I hate it, the franchise, not just delaying the book readings, okay? But like, I hate book 5 in particular. That's going to be the hardest for me to get through, okay? I'm going to tell the story again when we get to it, but how long it is really turned me off originally when I read it like 5 or 6 years ago. So we're doing our best. We will try to get that episode out to you as soon as possible. It's just taking a little bit longer. I have more time than Shaps does, so I can hunker down and finish it in a week. He really can't, and he's trying to. And he's doing the audiobook version. For him, that works really well. So we are doing our best to get it done. It's just taking a lot longer than usual. But I do apologize. I really wish we could have just knocked it out once a month like we had planned to. Just life is kind of getting in the way right now.
It's really just the fact that it's hitting September and then pretty soon October. That's rest of the year is super busy season for me. So I just need to reschedule everything or just recalibrate everything. But I'm very excited to read the book. Yeah.
And I'm thankful you're making time to shoot episodes with me. So it's not like we have nothing to produce for the next couple months. Like we're setting up to where if we need to take time off for him to do work, he's able to accommodate.
I understand. I've known creators who like have a good series going and then they delay for super long time. I'm like, oh man, why don't they finish already? And I'm like, now I understand.
Oh yeah, that's the thing about being creative. Is like now I understand when they're pushing stuff back. You know. I always give people crap for video game delays because I don't think those are justified ever. But now I'm actually feeling like, okay, if they really needed more time, they just, hey.
Certainly.
Of course, I consider video game delays a red flag, but
really?
it's a foreshadowing of something evil to come. You know what I mean? It means the game's going to be glitchy when it comes out.
Yeah,
because they're still rushing.
Tell that to Starfield.
Did they delay it that many times?
They didn't delay it. Well, if they delayed it, it was like once, but they actually didn't delay that a whole lot, and they actually released it a week early for people who bought it.
That's what I'm saying.
They spent $100 actually.
Yeah.
And if you spend $100, you could play it a week early.
If there's no delay, though, that's what I'm saying. If there's no delay, that to me it's a good sign. That,
but it was still buggy though.
It wasn't as bad though as other Bethesda titles. That's the big thing.
Yeah, but the performance is really bad.
I'm hearing it's performing pretty well.
No. I mean, like actual optimization, like it runs really, really poorly on PC at least.
Oh well,
but
we already discussed this. But PCs are going to be.
I don't want to hear it.
They're going to be having trouble for a while.
I don't want to hear it. I don't hear that.
Right now, PS5 is the way to go. Except for Starfield, you're going to have to buy it on the Xbox. Okay, Series X. So.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, it sucks that now it's like I'm just gonna have to get a console version because what was that Jedi Survivor where you had to get the console version just because PC's broken.
Right, that's fun. I like that.
Summarizing an episode that came out a while ago, just don't get a PC right now. It's just not worth it. They're too expensive and the games aren't optimized for them anymore. Unless you really want to play some of the smaller games. I've been playing the crap out of some Black Ops Zombies. Black Ops 1. I bought all the maps. I've just been going to town on that stuff. So, It's going good. Now that I have a job that provides financial security, I can actually start buying some of the stuff I've wanted for a while.
That's good.
Trying to upgrade my board game collection. I played a really nice one at your little gathering that you had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very fun. Fun for the whole family. Very competitive, though. Very competitive.
Have you ever been to a nerd's house and you're like, you look around, you're like, oh my gosh, this is way too much crap. Crap.
You know, okay, so like messy crap or just like
okay.
garbage you shouldn't buy?
Garbage you shouldn't buy, but now it's a mess because they bought so much of it, and they set it up to where it's like it's organized. But I was like, what is all this garbage?
I think it's kind of cringy when people have like giant Funko Pop collections, like that fill their. Yeah, I know we're talking about.
I like Funkos.
I know.
I have a bunch of Funko Pops.
This is about you.
And not only that, I own Funko Pops of TV shows that nobody knows exist.
I have a small Funko Pop collection of like Star Wars ones, but those are the ones I really have. But I'm talking about the ones who have like an entire room basically dedicated to them. I remember growing up, my brother had a friend who had like Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Was really big into Yu-Gi cards, but literally his entire room, it was like a big living room, and there was not one spot on the floor that I didn't have a Yu-Gi-Oh card on it.
Oh my gosh!
Scattered everywhere.
No way.
Like everywhere there was Yu-Gi-Oh cards, just everywhere.
Were they at least sleeved?
No,
they're
just scattered.
That's awful.
Like I don't know why they just always were like that.
That sounds terrible. Like I mean, you're gonna tear them up.
Yeah, exactly.
At least sleeve them.
Yeah.
See, my board game collection was originally just one board game, but it has so many expansions. I was kind of dedicating my time towards just building that one game. The base game, expansions, sleeving them, organizing them in the big box where you, organize all your cards. So I had done that. So, I mean, I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on this one board game, but it's so expansive. They're still adding games, stuff to it. Yeah. So I'm not even close to being done.
Which one is it?
It's called Legendary. Have you seen it? It's a deck building game where it's based on the Marvel universe. Oh. So each expansion comes with like, there's a World War Hulk expansion, there's an X-Men expansion, and it comes with heroes, villains, henchmen, sidekick. It comes with all these things, and they're still just adding to it because the Marvel universe is so big that they come up with other things. And so like there's the X-Men expansion, then there's the evil X-Men expansion, and there's all sorts of crap in it. So they finally just now added Ultron in the Ant-Man expansion. So
this is a little off topic to what we were just talking about, but I have a quarrel with the comic book universes now.
Oh, what you got?
Well, I just like looking over all these like different arcs and stuff that DC and Marvel put out. I think I hate multiverses now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the comics. You're talking about the comics or the movies?
In comics, I guess, but like it transfers over to movies. Mm-hmm. But it's worse in the comics. I feel like it's once they start going multiverse, it's like it just gets like anything can happen. So like it almost feels like everything's pointless. How do you feel about that like concept in general, like in media? Like in a comic book or a game or a movie, multiverse is brought into the picture.
When you say nothing matters, I have a nihilistic point of view. Uh-huh. I am definitely a nihilist. Sure. Okay, and I love that word actually, the spelling. So oddly enough, again, we established this at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. This isn't a religion-based podcast, but for the longest time before I knew Jesus, I had trouble with nothing matters. Yeah. Like the world is so big, the universe is so big that anything I do has no consequences. So my favorite book of the Bible actually is Ecclesiastes, because it comes with that same attitude. Like everything is meaningless. The sun still sets every day on everything you do, and we don't know for sure who wrote it. We think it was Solomon, or maybe he was critiquing who wrote it. But. Basically, it's the same thing. He's like, I've done everything under the sun. Nothing matters. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, he says, nothing matters except the Lord. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think it's like. I think it's like 12 chapters total. But he goes in like, nothing matters except the Lord. Mm-hmm. So you watch Rick and Morty, and you're like, man, like they joke about how like they can just hop to another universe, right? And then just like nothing matters. Like we can do whatever we want, and then hop to another timeline where Hitler cured cancer,
or hop to a timeline where Justin Roiland's innocent.
Yeah, exactly. So, in the movies, the multiverse is really cool. I like it.
It definitely, that's why I try to deviate from the movies a little bit, because they actually do something kind of interesting with it.
Right. Well, they're trying it. And if nothing else, you get to see the actor in a role again.
Yeah,
that's fun.
exactly.
That's fun to watch, you know, but in the comics,
it just feels like every story always goes to the multiverse thing every single time.
yeah, so you look at stories like Injustice, where Superman goes bad, and Batman's solution is to pull a Superman from another timeline where he didn't go bad, and they just fight each other.
Yeah, and then there's like 800 different universes where it's like...
More than that.
But yeah, obviously endless. But it's just like, it really doesn't feel like, you know, when is it our Superman? When is it our Batman anymore? You know, like the one that we actually know, it's just like, every time something interesting happens, oh, it was just in the universe where it did happen.
Right.
So it really doesn't matter. And it always drives on the point where it's like, oh, when heroes die in the comic books, they never die for sure.
See my go-to excuse, people like in Man of Steel, people that defend Man of Steel will just say, like, because I think it was the worst movie ever, right?
Yeah.
One of them. Not as bad as Batman v Superman. But everyone's like, oh, that's just an Elseworld Superman. Like, that's not an excuse for bad writing.
So
Every time Terminator comes out with the new trilogy and it fails, they're like,
oh, they always say it's a different universe.
that's just a different timeline. It's all good. Our original movies are intact. And I'm like, dude, no.
That's so stupid.
You know, I want to talk about the Terminator franchise at some point. But, I mean, heck, while we're at the multiverse stuff, maybe we can tack it on at the end.
Yeah, sure. I've never understood that. Like, why butcher that series so much?
So many times. And they're rebooting it again. And again, James Cameron is at the helm of it.
And I bet you anything they're going to get Schwarzenegger somehow tied into that.
Well, no, he recently said he's not doing it again because he's like, you know, I've rebooted the franchise 3 times with y'all, and he's like, it's obvious that
I don't know. I feel like they could get him into it as a cameo at least.
Oh,
but,
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway,
gosh, dude. Yeah. So,
multiverse. Sorry, guys. Got sidetracked.
But yeah, isn't that just like the answer for everything now? You know, like. I really didn't like what they did with Endgame.
Really?
Yeah, the whole... It's not like multiverse, but it kind of is. Because it's like time travel, whenever they time travel.
And they just go back and pull the things
It's a different world.
Yeah.
That really... I was thinking about the other day, actually. Like, obviously you can pick apart that, you know, all
For
day.
Sure. Yeah.
My biggest gripe was Thanos, because it felt like a cheapening of what that character was. Because... It's felt like they cheated the audience, like they got the best of both worlds, where we got to see Thor finally kill Thanos, but at the same time, we didn't get to see Thanos win or just have the big fight, you know? So, like, they kill Thanos at the very beginning, you know, and that's crazy because the entire film prior to that was building up this, or the entire franchise was building up this Thanos. And by bringing him back, time travel-wise, it doesn't feel like the same one. It's literally a different one.
People felt that way about Loki because when the very first episode, they were like, you know, hold on, what the heck? Like, how come the Avengers were able to go back and mess up the timeline?
Yeah.
Oh, that was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And a bunch of my buddies that I disagree, but a bunch of them felt like, man, that just really cheapens the emotional impact of the whole Infinity Saga. Because if it was supposed to happen, then nothing they did really matters.
Yeah.
You know. Sidebar. My counter to that is. Think about how there's someone above everybody controlling what goes on. You know, think of it like Stan Lee. Stan Lee knows what's going to happen. So does anything our comic heroes do matter? No, because he can go back and change it. He's like he's the one above all, and it's the same concept to me. Like the one above all that knows things are going to happen. I just picture a comic creator doing the same thing. So
fun fact: the god of the Marvel universe is actually called the One Above All.
Yep, no, that's where I got that from.
Yeah.
And it's Stan Lee.
It totally is.
Yeah, but sidebar.
Yeah.
No, I'm also really excited for Loki season 2. I know that stuff going on with Jonathan Majors is a thing. I hope he's not a wife beater, but if he is, then they need to take the right steps. But that's also another sidebar.
Oh yeah.
You've seen a couple hard resets of, let's say, the DC universe or Marvel. So it's not necessarily relating to multiverse stuff. But the House of M storyline in Marvel, okay, that is actually a reset of mutants. So in that storyline, they realized they had way too many mutants going around and all these weird powers going on. So at the end of that timeline, they took inspiration from it for WandaVision. But in that timeline, Wanda rewrote reality to where they're an alternate universe. Gwen Stacy's alive.
Yeah.
Nick Fury's not alive, but Wolverine is the new Nick Fury. So like it's a weird timeline. And they do a regular show thing. I'm sure House of M did it first, but they do a regular show thing where someone remembers what's really going on, and he has to go around reminding everybody, triggering the memories of the real timeline. But at the end, they reset the timeline back to normal. But Wanda, Scarlet Witch, decides, you know what, I'm just going to erase mutants. So she does a hard reset. So she says, no more mutants, and then boom, she does her big spell. And so Iceman loses his powers. Everyone except key X-Men, like, you know, they had plot armor.
Yeah.
But basically the classic X-Men characters and a few other mutants had lost their powers. There were too many mutants on the Earth for the comic writers to keep up with, so they streamlined it and they made it smaller to where there was, like, you know, the X-Men and base villains. So they did that. And then, of course, a bunch of them got their powers back, like Iceman got his powers back eventually. Wolverine, they use the excuse as adamantium made it made him immune to the spell.
The Plotaminium, yes.
Yeah. So, and then you look at Flashpoint in the DC Universe side. So they wanted to hard reboot the universe. So the controversial. Okay, so we could do a whole episode on why it's called the New 52. They used Flashpoint to reboot the entire DC universe, and that's when they started the New 52 series. Yeah. Very controversial. So because everything that they were building to just didn't matter anymore. Flashpoint erased the whole thing and they started over. But you see when the writers write themselves into a hole, okay, and then they're like, okay, let's just reset everything. Secret Wars, not the original, but when they redid Secret Wars, which is what the upcoming Avengers is based off of, Avengers Secret Wars, basically you got the timeline, the Ultimate Universe, Miles Morales. Well, he's in the Ultimate Universe. He's not in the mainstream continuity. So what they have to do? Secret Wars. Oh no, all the dimensions are clashing together. So in that storyline, they all clash together. Miles is now in the mainstream universe. Sure. And when it's all finally finished, key characters from different universes they went and put into the main timeline are now in the main timeline. So you see these really weird, convoluted. I don't even know if this is what your original question was. Well, but you see a bunch of weird tactics from writers to get characters into the correct timeline or to reset a mistake that they didn't like.
It feels way too sci-fi and just clunky because, like, I'm thinking about, like, okay, think of, like, two amazing stories, like The Killing Joke or Death of Superman. You know, like, these really just, like, groundbreaking comics, you know. And then think of, like, something like The Batman Who Laughs. Right. I don't know if you know much about that storyline. But
a little bit.
But
I've seen pictures.
That's just like... It's just like someone got an... went all edgelord, you know, and basically just, like, decided to take over the entire writing room, and everyone's like, well, it sells well, so kids like edgy stuff, so, like, just go on, keep going. But it's, like, the most crazy story. Like, it's literally a Batman from a dark universe who became Joker, killed everyone in his universe, then... went to every other bad universe and got super bad versions of all the superheroes versions and got them all together. But then they all died, so then he got super bad versions of every Batman in every universe. And, like, literally the armor on his head, where it's like that dominatrix thing on his head. Yeah. It's a metal that he can't see through it, but they explain it's metal that, like, absorbs dark energy. Like, what the heck is dark energy? You know, just, like, it's so unbelievably just, like, sci-fi bullcrap now that I'm like, I kind of prefer it back when it was just... Simple. Like, is it a bad thing to keep these heroes sort of isolated in individual stories that don't always have to connect to the bigger picture? Because right now, the bigger picture is just madness. Right. You know, it always turns into madness.
Yeah, multiverse of madness. No, I'm just kidding.
And then they always have to do a Flashpoint. Now, like, DC had kind of a clever way of doing it, but, like, they're going to do Flashpoint again and again.
Sort of. It had a slew of issues. And fun fact, they rebooted it again to get out of the New 52, and they accidentally crossed over with Watchmen. So
yeah, you see, like they back themselves in the corner every single freaking time. Like they
Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan was like sitting on this planet waiting on them to show up. That was pretty interesting. But anyway,
but it's still like, why does it have to keep on happening? Like I saw in an article recently where it said, like, should these heroes actually have an end? And I'm like, I don't know. But I do think that they should focus more on individual stories rather than always somehow relating to a bigger multiverse picture where how does this fit into the canon? The canon doesn't mean anything anymore.
Well, see that was the concept of the Ultimate Universe. Do you know anything about Ultimate Universe? Okay, so that's the universe. I know I'm picking a random character.
Yeah.
That's the one Miles Morales comes from. So in that universe, that was their attempt at New 52 without damaging the original timeline. You know, the one everyone knows and loves, Stan Lee wrote.
Sure.
The Ultimate Universe, that's where the movies get their most inspiration from. So Thor gets his weird hammer, Stormbreaker. That's in that. Nick Fury, originally white in the comics, but in the Ultimate Universe, it looks just like Nick. What's his name? Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes. That's
right. Well, that's where they drew the inspiration from for Nick Fury in that universe. So it's literally Samuel L. Jackson, and that's why it works so well, because in the comics they actually based it on his likeness. So for the movies, it was just literally they hired him.
Yeah.
So
that's funny.
So yeah, that's where the movies get most of their inspiration from. That was their attempt at making it smaller and more mainstream. Was the Ultimate Universe, and it sold really well. So yeah, I'm with you. Like, maybe we should have just one timeline that doesn't get affected. I think there's a story, I don't know much about it for Spider-Man, but it's called the Clone Saga, and everybody hates that because there were so many weird Spider-Man combinations. On top of that, the writing was just terrible, so everyone hated it. But I don't know.
I think there was like a Miles Morales comic I saw a video on, and he was like going through it, like walking through like the comic. It was just like the writing sometimes, it's so funny and clunky. He's like, Mary Jane's like, Miles, what's wrong? Just thinking about Carnage. Like it's a normal, just like, Carnage really got to me today. Like, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
Or, oh God, I hope the Hobgoblin doesn't come back. Like, it's weird, just so clunky. I really want to see...
Do you mean convoluted? Is that what bugs you? How convoluted it gets, where there's too many moving parts at once?
Well, when I say clunky, I mean it doesn't land well. It doesn't feel. It doesn't feel natural. It feels like this always has to be connected to something. This always has to be, like, in order to appeal to everyone, we have to always reference everything. I was going with something. I think it really okay. So Marvel movies are kind of a testament to this. I think people are kind of done with the whole Avengers merging thing. Like, Avengers is over.
Yeah.
But they're still trying to keep on this weird light. And I think, I haven't seen it, but I heard, like, Secret War, was it called? Didn't do very well at all.
The comic?
No, the show. What was it called? Secret Invasion?
Secret Invasion.
Yeah, I heard that did terribly.
Well,
I don't know anything about it.
There's a lot that goes into why it's not doing good. I would argue they're making too many mid-tier stuff, because originally when everyone's solo movie was like, this is fantastic, it got you excited to meet up with another character who also had a fantastic movie.
Yeah, sure.
But now we're getting so many, She-Hulk wasn't that great. So now it's like, well, nobody cares about She-Hulk now. I can't wait for her to team up with Miss Marvel, who also had a not great show. You see a bunch of team up characters that aren't that interesting. Whereas before it was like Captain America got a super cool origin movie and then two really good movies. Iron Man had these great movies. Hulk had an okay movie, and you get to see these characters that people like, and now you get to see all their personalities clash.
Right.
Whereas now with everything after the Endgame, you get a bunch of mid tier stuff nobody cares about, and now you don't care to see their mashup.
I feel like they're too afraid to do a standalone movie ever again. Like, everything, the money is where the cameos are. The money is where the connections are. Like, okay, that's the advantage of Sony having Spider-Man, is that when they make a Spider-Man movie, it's going to be a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Now, it took 3 movies to get it right. Eventually, the third Spider-Man movie, even though it had a connection with Doctor Strange, it was still a Spider-Man movie.
Oh, yeah.
Through and through. The first 2, not so much. First movie was like Avengers. Second movie was kind of sort of a tie-in, but like... The third one was definitely Spider-Man. And then the next one, whatever Sony makes it, is going to be a Spider-Man movie. Yeah. We'll never get a Captain America movie again. We'll never get a Thor movie again. We'll never get an Iron Man movie again. If they do, it's always going to be tied into that cinematic universe.
Right.
And I feel like the best parts were when they were standalone.
Right.
I think of, like, the Batman that came out, 2 years ago?
The Batman.
The Batman. That doesn't tie into any universe. Yeah. I don't think it ever will.
Right.
But it was really good. I really liked it, And
Joker. I thought Joker standalone on its
own. Joker standalone. And fantastic film. And it doesn't tie into any stupid universe, And it doesn't, because it doesn't even feel, it has the freedom to be its own thing.
Yeah.
Like, that tone and that setting wouldn't work in any of the other films. It works in Joker because it was built to be Joker, you know? Same with the Batman, you know? And they can still have Batman movies that tie in with the cinematic universe or whatever, but still have the standalone movies.
Right.
Like, I really want to go back to form, to where it was just The Dark Knight or the old Superman movies, you know? Like, or when kind of the original Avenger movies came out and they were just standalone, you know? They didn't do crossover yet.
Yeah. I think those days are over.
I think so too, but I really wish they'd come back because I think they'd be a lot more successful.
Right. So think about like we talked about this a long time ago. Spielberg was talking about superhero movies are going to go the way of the Western. And back in the day, the Western was the cinematic universe. Everything had to be a Western.
Yep.
At like you know, everyone was trying to copy whatever what is it? Magnificent Seven, all the Clint Eastwood movie. There were just so many rip-offs. So many people were ripping off those movies and just making their own, making up their own John Wayne, making up their own Clint Eastwood. And it's like, bro, stop. You know?
Right.
And it's the same. We're seeing the same thing now, where one company does it well, everyone wants to copy them. Yeah. Everyone. And they're just trying to copy the formula. They can't get it right.
Yeah.
You know, they try to establish too much in one movie, and it does terrible. So I think now we're probably past the 10 year. It was like a good 10 years where these movies were the bomb. Marvel was on top of the world, and I think now because they keep making mid tier stuff, people are starting to lose interest. So I'm really feeling like those days that you want, which were great, but that's just something we can look back fondly on. I think those are done. Yeah, I don't think, at least from the movies. The comics have been doing that crap for a while.
Yeah, that's what I look at the comics. I'm like, man, that's been bad. Like, that's always been like that. Every once in a while, they'll come out with an interesting one, like Deceased, which is basically Marvel Zombies, which I really like Deceased. But then,
what was that called? The Long Night?
What?
The zombie version of DC?
Deceased.
Deceased.
Yeah, Deceased.
Oh. That's what it's called?
Yeah, Deceased.
On DC side?
Yeah.
Oh, I could have sworn it was something different.
Are you thinking of Long Halloween?
No, I have that storyline.
No, Deceased. That's the zombie one.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really good. Like, really freaking good. And as far as I know, they don't have a freaking multiverse tie-in.
Right.
But, like,
good.
How stupid would it be if the cure for the zombie virus was a cyborg from Earth 2121, you know, comes in with the cure, and it's like, oh, well, that was stupid.
Well, Marvel Zombies kind of did that, where once the zombies ran out of the universe they were in,
they started attacking the multiverse, right?
Right. Well, it wasn't even on purpose. One of there was a human left on Earth, and he was trying to get rid of the zombies, so he teleported them to another dimension. Oh. And that was the end of the original story. And then someone came back later for Marvel Zombies Return and put you and told the story of where they went after that.
Oh, gotcha.
So, okay. I do have a problem with either A, we'll just send them to another dimension, or or we'll just pull from another dimension to save us. Yeah. You know, that was my problem with the first Injustice. Was like, I wanted Batman to deal with the consequences of his dimension. Yeah. Superman goes evil. Well, how does Batman solve that? Okay, but the writers for the first game decided, we'll just pull from the good Superman dimension and have him beat bad Superman. I had a problem with that.
To be fair, they came back in the second one.
I was going to say, the second game, the second game, they're like, okay, we're not doing that again. Batman needs to deal with his own stuff, and it was really good. So
that's an interesting world too. Like, I love it. I think everyone loves it when Superman goes evil, or people like that. You know, like, you just want to see the good guy fall, I guess. But like, it's an interesting concept, and definitely when they have to, you're right, when they don't have to worry on that sci-fi multiverse bullcrap, you know, they have to worry, they work on themselves.
It challenges the writers to be creative, you know, like, okay, well, shoot, how do we beat Superman? Okay, well, Batman's going to have to, you know, he's going to have to call Harley Quinn, Batwoman, like
the unlikely allies.
Yes, he had to pull from bottom of the barrel, like Green Arrow. Like, I know everyone, Green Arrow's a good character. I know that. I'm not saying he's a bad character, but like, look, you're going against some powerful people here.
Sure,
you know. But then you got people like Green Lantern. In that story, Green Lantern's like, you know, he was bad in the first game, but now he regrets it. And now
what an interesting concept.
He needs to earn the ring back. You know, like, it's good stuff. You know, Supergirl, not as good as Superman, but Supergirl, she had to come in and help out.
Even though Atrocitus was kind of shoehorned in, it's an interesting concept where I didn't know anything about him, but like, it's a cool character. Like, he's not inherently evil. It's just like he kind of is more like a chaotic lawful, or like a lawful evil, you know, kind of character.
Absolutely.
You know, like, his job is to punish, you know, like, the wicked essentially, and because John Stewart, that's his name, right? John Stewart did something so terrible, in the first game. He's like having to live with that guilt, and it manifests as Atrocitus.
Wait, are you talking about Injustice 2 still?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's Hal Jordan, I believe.
Oh, sorry, Hal Jordan. Yeah,
John Stewart's the other guy.
That's right.
From the Justice League cartoon.
I get that mixed up.
No, I understand. There's like a billion Green Lanterns, and Hal Jordan has like one of the best. Side note for our viewers: if you want to read a good Lantern story, read the Redemption arc. Hal Jordan, fantastic. Anyway, I'm not a big comic nerd, but I dabble. I get a little collection here.
Sure. Yeah.
Now I'm going for artwork typically, anyway. It's really good stuff. So I would have to say multiverse is kind of lazy.
Yeah.
For the movies, it works pretty well when you can do the cameos, you can do the alternate versions of characters with actors. When you see John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, that was fun. You know what I mean? Like that, because the fans were like, oh, they're making fan art of John Krasinski. Like that was fun. You know what I mean?
It's more like that kind of like brings fans together.
Yeah,
cool.
you know what I mean. But like for comics, it just gets so lazy.
But even when they did that, they were cameos. They didn't stay around for too long.
Right. Yeah.
And probably one of the most brutal deaths, actually.
Yeah, that was fun. So for the movies, I think it works a lot better. For the third Spider-Man movie, bring back all the Spider-Man. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And then you get movies like Morbius, where they they bring Vulture for Michael Keaton's Spider-Man
for what, the tail end of the film, right?
For the end credit scene. Talk about end credit scene that go nowhere. That's another episode for another time.
Oh, jeez Louise, I forgot about that. Which one was Venom in? Was Venom in the Spider-Man movie at the tail end?
Yeah, he was in the third Spider-Man movie. That was just a cameo.
That was a joke.
And that was to introduce the symbiote.
Yeah.
So, which I cannot wait for. I'm gonna.
So how is it? Are they like? I don't know the current news. Are they going to make a new Spider-Man movie?
They got a trilogy set up.
Really?
Mm-hmm. For now, we know Tom Holland's going to be in 2 of them. I need to double check. He might be signed on for 3, but I know he's in at least 2.
Disney? Oh, wow.
I don't think there's going to be another deal that falls through. I think they negotiated pretty well.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be another trilogy with Tom Holland. It's up in the air whether or not they'll do Miles in the 3rd one. That'd be a fun movie, but I think the animated universe, I don't think they're going to top that.
Yeah, that would just take away from Miles and Spider-Verse.
Right. So, I mean, unless they do Shamik Moore, unless they have the same actor who voices him.
That'd be an interesting idea.
Because he still looks really young. He's got the kid voice. They could do it. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't know if you've seen the movie Dope. That was like his breakout role, where it's a movie where he's trying to get into Harvard and he hangs out with some buddies and he picks up the wrong backpack and it's got like a big thing of weed in it. And so the movie's him trying to get rid of it and then also navigate like college application. It's a good movie, and that's what kind of put him on the map. So anyway.
You know what? That's a good point, though. Spider-Verse actually was a really good example of a multiverse done right.
Yes, very, very right. Because it was animated. They could just have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you get a show like What If, and I don't think they were creative enough. I think they should have pushed the boundaries a bit more.
That was sad. And like, what was the?
I mean, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't that great.
Well, it's like, what's a different version of Thor? I don't know. It's just Party Thor.
Yeah,
it
just wasn't creative enough.
And then like a lot of them just had the exact same story as like the movies, but like slightly different. I'm like, you could have done so much. I love the idea of Thanos being a freaking guardian. Like, that's a really cool idea.
That was a good episode. You know what I mean? But the very first episode was Captain America won again, but with a gender swap.
Woman.
Gender swap. You know what I mean? Like, they
didn't do anything.
It just wasn't that creative. So there were some really good episodes, and then there were some not so good episodes. Overall, I thought it was decent, but I think multiverse, it feels like it should be so creative.
Right.
It feels like it should open the door for these really cool concepts. But what ends up happening is you get laziness. It's like, again, the end of Injustice. We'll pull Superman from another thing, and that'll fix it. Right. Or we'll shoot them to another timeline. Like, that's what they did to Doomsday originally. It was called Superman / Doomsday Hunter Prey. And it's a good storyline, but Superman's like, well, we can't beat Doomsday again. What do we do? I'll just put him in another dimension. A dimension where everything's dead. That way he's not hurting anybody. You know what I mean? Dumb.
Yes, why didn't we think of that before?
I know, and it's like, it can be fun. Okay, like you can tell some really good stories. There's the Batman Dracula storyline where he fights Dracula. That's a great story because it's not a multiverse story. It's just like, what if Dracula showed up in a Batman weird gothic, thing.
The kind of like also Superman Red Sun.
Oh, fantastic!
Really good one.
That's the first comic.
Nothing to do with the
I ever read.
multiverse, but like really good story of just like a what if scenario. So yeah, if they keep it like that, like the individual standalone what if kind of scenarios, like that's a really cool idea.
And they do that. There's, I mean, one of the best Superman stories that's not in the main canon. It's All-Star Superman. All-Star Superman is awesome, and it's not in the main canon, but it's just a good Superman story. It captured the heart of Superman. It had like the right amount of lore from the main timeline, but it also being its own thing.
Yeah.
So, and it was a really inspirational story about like there's always another way besides giving up.
I think Dark Knight Returns is in the main canon. No, but that was a good story too.
Yeah, so Dark Knight Returns, for those of you who don't know, that's the one where Batman's been retired for 10 years and he hates it. And he comes out of retirement and Superman's a stooge for the President of the United States. He's still Superman, but he's also like under President's thumb. And it was Reagan in the comic books. It was, I mean, it wasn't actual President Reagan, but it was clearly what they designed it off of. And that storyline came out after like Adam West made Batman a joke. Wow. So that was the first story, basically, at least in the mainstream, where Batman was the dark, gritty version that we see now. Yeah. Except the only problem why they didn't really continue that series was he was old. It was an old Batman who came out of retirement, and that was the dark version that inspired everything else. So now you get to modern comic books where he's dark, gritty, and mean, and breaking people's bones. That was basically Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
So, and then Zack Snyder came along and made him a killer.
Give him gun.
Yeah. That's a whole other story. Zack Snyder does not read comic books.
No.
So, one second. You know, and it leads to some really cool stuff. The Marvel Zombies was very good, very standalone up until they launched people to another dimension. So, but other than that, I was like, yeah, bro, like, multiverse can be really cool, again, when it's an isolated story. That's why Injustice 2 is so good, I think, because, like, it's isolated. It's Elseworlds, but it's very isolated. So, you know, I don't know. When the writers can be creative and they have to write themselves into a hole and then dig themselves out of it. Or, you know, I think that's when it's the most fun. So, I don't know, you know. I think multiverse can be lazy, and I think that's the biggest thing, is when they're lazy with it. And they use it as a crutch to like, let's just say the universe didn't happen. Or, you know what I mean? It's Elseworld, you know.
How many times has X-Men been rebooted?
I don't know about rebooted, but convoluted? Absolutely.
No, I thought they were rebooted like 2 or 3 times.
The movies? Or
the movies.
No.
Really?
Twice? Or just once? Just once.
Just once.
Yeah. Did you watch Days of Future Past?
Okay, I don't remember that. I've only seen one X-Men movie, but it was the one with the original Dark Phoenix one.
Oh, X-Men 3.
They rebooted after that one, right?
Sort of.
Kind of.
So, let me just go through the timeline.
First Class came out after that, I think.
Right. So, there's X-Men 1, 2, 3. Okay, then there was X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is awful, right? And and that was supposed to start a franchise of origin films. So they were going to talk about doing Magneto and all these other things. And Origins failed so bad that they said, never mind.
Wow.
There were CGI ladders and stuff. It was weird. Weird movie.
Oh, and that was the Deadpool one, right?
Yeah, so that's where they sewed Deadpool's mouth shut. Okay, nice. So now First Class came out. Okay, and that was a reboot. I wasn't sure what the intention of it was. If they were trying to reboot, if they were trying to do whatever, or Elseworlds. I heard
that was really good.
No, it was fantastic. That's like one of the best X-Men movies. Okay, next they came out with I want to say Wolverine. It was just called The Wolverine, and it was Hugh Jackman from the original movies doing his own adventure. At the end of that end credit scene, he's at the airport and he can't get through the metal detector because he's metal. And then everything stops. And then
you'd think he'd have that problem.
Right, just ironed out. Have his own jet by now. But no. So at the end, Professor X shows up, right? And he's like, we need you for the next movie. And he's like, I guess,
I don't even remember that movie coming out.
It came out in 2013. I remember.
Wolverine?
The Wolverine. It was PG-13, but that was a boundary-pushing PG-13 movie. That's a good one.
Was Gambit in that one?
No, he was in Origins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you remember they were supposed to do a Gambit movie with Channing Tatum as Gambit? That's funny. He's way too big to be Gambit. But, I know he wanted to do it. They canceled it.
So after the Wolverine...
Days of Future Past. Now, Days of Future Past was the original timeline with the original characters. They were in a bad future where the big robots were hunting all the X-Men. They were about to die. It was a Last Stand movie.
Sure.
What they did was they sent Wolverine back in time to the First Class years timeline.
So they connected.
They connected it. So
okay.
so the regular Wolverine from the main timeline went back in time to First Class era and switched everything to where it fixed the future. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So and then the First Class movies became the new norm. With the understanding that eventually First Class would run into the original movies timeline, where when they all got older, what's his name, James McAvoy would turn into Patrick Stewart. Like, you know, it was just like, just assume that the movies bridge at some point. So that's what they did, and then it turns out the First Class timeline, the movies, everything after Days of Future Past was pretty terrible. So it was sad.
Yeah,
because it was such a good merger. Days of Future Past was so good. I was like, I cannot wait to see where they go with this, and they didn't go anywhere. It was bad.
Was it Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, or was there a few others?
Yep, Apocalypse, terrible, and it had Hugh Jackman again, which was weird. But you know, they shoved in Hugh Jackman, which it's always great to see him as Wolverine. But
I love that tasteless Apocalypse, that tasteless poster of him like choking out Mystique, and then that was over all the billboards and everything. Right. They're like,
yeah. I don't remember the controversy, but I could see people being upset about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it was Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse too. Like he's in all the, I don't know what it is. He's in all the franchises, but that's a sidebar. Wow. But and then Logan came out, which was like, I don't know what you consider that, if you want to consider that Elseworlds, but that was the canon ending to the movie's version of Wolverine. And then Dark Phoenix came out. It was so bad. I don't know how they effed up that timeline.
I heard that was the one where everyone just checked out because they knew it was ending. So it's like,
well, the girl Jennifer Lawrence, who played Mystique, like she didn't even want to wear the makeup and the costume anymore. So that all her scenes, even though in the previous movies they established she's happy with being blue, she's happy with how she looks, she accepts who she is.
Sure.
Then you get to Dark Phoenix.
She's like, I don't want
I don't want to wear that makeup and costume anymore. So she's back to her human form. So
that's so stupid.
You know, it was bad.
And then she also say like it should be X women, not X men, or something. I'm like,
you know what? Every now and then, like I support the writer's strike, but every now and then I wonder why we're even paying them at all.
Were you not AI before this?
I know, it's ridiculous.
Oh, that's so stupid.
It's bad, but. Yeah, that wasn't really multiverse, but that was an example of like you can make a convoluted timeline good. You know, I'm not even sure where we're going with that, but no, they haven't rebooted X-Men that many times. Okay. They really only rebooted it once, but they bridged it to the originals so flawlessly to where I was like, man, that was so good. And then nothing after that except for Logan matched that. And then Deadpool just does what he wants. So, and my understanding is Hugh Jackman coming back for Deadpool 3 is supposed to be a variant Hugh Jackman. So it's not even the main Hugh Jackman from the original timeline. It's like a multiverse thing.
Really?
So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, I don't, but all the rest of them are original timeline, right? So why don't they just get the, okay.
My understanding is they don't want to mess with the Logan timeline because Logan ended so well. They're worried about pissing off fans who are like, oh, it doesn't fit in with Logan. You're undermining Logan. I see. They're pulling from just like, oh, it's just Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So I think that's what they're trying to do.
Gotcha.
Without pissing off the Logan fans, which I can agree with. So. Can we talk about Terminator franchise now?
Of course, why not?
We got 15 minutes. I think we can squeeze that in.
Leave that in.
Yeah, so talking about multiverse stuff, like they're talking about laziness. So Terminator 1 and 2, flawless masterpieces. I'm assuming you've seen both, right?
The originals? I saw the original trilogy, yeah.
No, I guess it is a trilogy.
There's a third one.
I remember.
Yeah.
Was it that bad?
It was okay.
What made people mad was it undermined Terminator 2.
Not ruined it.
Right.
Terminator 2 still. If you like, I don't even consider Terminator 3 as canon because like it's like it doesn't just like undermine it. It like shoots it like in the back. It's like nothing matters.
Because Dark Fate literally shot Terminator 2 in the back.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
No, Terminator 3 was fine, but it like literally it ended the exact same. Well, no, it didn't even end the exact. It had like a who cares ending.
Yeah.
Because it ended with the world ending.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, literally everything they've been doing for the first two movies like doesn't matter.
Right. So
And it didn't
would
even
have
follow
said-
its own logic because it said like once Terminator 2 ended, like that was the last Terminator. There's no way for the machines to come back, and then
Yeah.
it comes back. It's
Yeah,
like
they're just like, it just did happen.
okay, we need a woman Terminator. It's just,
Yeah,
that'd
right.
be cool.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah,
so
that's
cool,
weird because
yes.
even okay, so nowadays the Terminator franchise, they think, oh, the way to make it feel like it's a new Terminator movie is just to have a variation of a Terminator. You know, so like one just space Terminator, Arnold, right? And then Terminator 2 is liquid metal. That's really cool.
Yeah.
You get to the third one, and it's like, well, we don't have to be creative. Let's just come up with a new Terminator. So it's the liquid over a regular metal Terminator, which kind of feels like a step backwards from just liquid metal. But
Yeah, because there was like a clear progression. Like in the original one, it was the T8, which was just Arnold, like non-sentient Arnold.
Right.
And then the T9, which was like Arnold who could talk. Then the T1000, which was the liquid one, which was cool.
Yeah.
And then the third one actually had a cool idea was the TX,
Yeah.
which was a Terminator hunter because so many Terminators were turning good.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's like natural progression.
Sure.
And then yeah, in like the reboot, it's just. They bring out back the T900, so I'm like, he's literally just old Arnold. It's just such a weird, clumsy way of
Yeah.
putting that in. It's like he wouldn't hold up, like
Right.
it's a natural progression. You know,
Right.
if this is the same universe,
Yeah.
they try to shoehorn in.
did you like Salvation?
I never saw it.
Okay.
I mean, that was the infamous one. The only thing I know about the film is the.
It was supposed to be a trilogy.
Oh, really?
Okay, so Terminator Salvation came out. What was the
Well,
only
they-
thing you knew about it?
Did they drop that? I know there's a big spoiler in the movie at the very end. Did they drop in the first movie and expecting it to be a trilogy where they say who John Connor is?
What do you mean? No.
How he's a Terminator?
No, that's Genesis.
Are you sure? I thought that was.
Nope, that's Genesis. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Okay. Salvation was such a cool idea.
Yeah.
Was like, okay, so my understanding was the trilogy was supposed to build up to when they send Kyle Reese back to the first Terminator film.
Okay.
So a movie set in the future where you see John Connor grow as a leader.
Yeah.
You see him grow with his wife and the kid, like him having a kid, how they discovered the Terminator that doesn't know he's a Terminator. So it was such a cool idea where they introduced the Arnold T800? T1?
T800, I guess, was the first Arnold.
Yeah, so they build up to where there's the Arnold Terminator where it's just the mindless robot with the skin over it to where it can blend into humans. But the original idea was like a guy who they turned into a Terminator and he didn't know. So in that movie, he's chained up and they're like,
I thought that was John Connor. Okay.
No. So the guy's chained up, and there's a really cool. It's in the trailer. It's a really cool line where the Christian Bale, John Connor, he's looking at the guy chained up, and he's like, "You think you're human?" He's like, "I am human." And he looks down, his whole body's cut off, and he's robot except for his like head and a little bit of skin on top. And he looks down, he's like, "Oh my god!" He starts screaming because he thought he was human. You know, that I was like, "Dang, this is gonna be a really good movie," and it wasn't. It was terrible.
Oh, that's a shame.
But it was so cool. I was like, that's such a great idea. It was like a trilogy set in the timeline where the war's going on and building up to the first movie where they send Kyle Reese.
Yeah, that's
back.
a great way of keeping the franchise going.
Right, but the first one was just a freaking bad movie, and they CGI'd Arnold back. But before CGI was bad, now it was worse back then. Where they're like CGI Arnold comes in and it's the Terminator from the first movie. Looked terrible, and that was before CGI built up to being terrible looking. It was even worse back then. So
And then, oh gosh, they don't even have the the guts to officially reboot the series. They have to somehow convolutedly tie it into the original.
To the original.
Like, why? It's already butchered. Why make it worse?
So we get to Terminator Genesis. It's just bad. I don't know how else to say it, dude. It was.
Is that the one where it the first 10 minutes? It starts with John Connor just getting shot in the head as a kid, or is it the second one?
That's okay. We'll get to that one. No. Okay, Genesis is
these
the.
movies.
Just watch 1 and 2. If you've already seen it, good. Go rewatch them. They're good.
No, yeah, they're
But
perfect.
you get to Genesis, and so they got Arnold back. Okay, the makeup and CGI looks okay, making him look young. And I was like, oh, is this gonna be like this the whole movie? But no, then they do a time jump, and it's like, okay, that's the real Arnold. He looks old.
He has a family.
Yeah. No, that's Dark Fate.
Dang! Oh my God!
Yeah.
How many are there?
There were a lot of attempts to salvage this franchise.
Good Lord, dude.
All right. Let me tell a story. You keep getting it mixed up.
Sorry.
Okay, in Genesis, It starts off okay, where it's what Salvation was trying to be, where they build up to sending Kyle Reese back. That's the first 10 minutes of the movie. They raid the Skynet, John Connor. They accidentally send back Arnold, and they're like, "Oh shoot, what do we do?" And then Connor looks at Kyle Reese. He already knows that that's his dad, and so he laughs. And he's like, "Kyle, I can't wait to see you again." Like, what are you talking about? Like, you'll see. You know what I mean? So he knows that that's his dad. It was kind of sweet, right? So then Kyle Reese gets on the time machine, and as he's getting ready to be transported, a Terminator comes from behind John Connor, and he's like, "You didn't think it'd be that easy, John?" And I'm like, "Oh no!" And then Kyle Reese gets sent back to the past, right? So okay. He doesn't know what's going on. So there's something weird about John Connor, right? Something just happened, but he knows he has to reenact the first movie. So he knows. All right. So as he's getting ready to fight the Terminator, Sarah Connor bursts through the mall that he's in when he's trying to steal clothes, and then she shoots Terminator 1 in the face, and then she goes, "Get in here! The timeline's all messed up."
Oh my god!
So it's like it feels
Is
like
that really?
It feels like I want you to watch the trailer. It feels like a fan movie.
That's really what they do?
Yes.
I knew it was bad. I just didn't know.
It's awful. Okay. So they try to do this weird dynamic.
I bet she's the one who says, "Come with me if you want to live."
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's in the movie. She busts through.
Of course.
She doesn't care. She's like, "Come with me if you want to live." Because we have to.
Oh, geez.
I don't know what they were thinking with this movie.
You're right. It does sound like a bad fan.
It's horrible. And I was like, they paid someone to do this.
Millions and millions and millions of dollars.
So the premise of that movie was somebody, we never find out who because they didn't get a sequel, but they do a weird thing where somebody sent an Arnold Terminator back in time to raise Sarah Connor to train her for Judgment Day. So he picks her up as a kid and raises her. She calls him Pops. There's a weird dynamic that they try to copy the Terminator 2 thing of like they teach him how to be cool. They teach him how to smile, so it's not awkward. Like they're trying to teach him how to laugh and stuff. And then it turns out he developed fatherly feelings for Sarah Connor, so they try to do a thing where he actually does care. He's more human than we thought. Okay, here was the really bad part, and they put this in the trailer, and it pissed off the director. It pissed off everybody, because the director was a decent director. He worked on a few episodes of Game of Thrones. He loved the franchise. Okay,
yeah.
So the big plot twist was as they're escaping the police station, like in the first movie, John Connor's there at the escape vehicle. I'm like, John, what the heck? What's going on? And Arnold shoots John Connor in the face, and everyone's freaking out. No, what have you done? Sarah Connor's like, you killed my son, even though she never had a son. And Kyle Reese was like, you killed my best friend. And then, plot twist, John Connor gets up. He took the gunshot. So at the very beginning, the Terminator that grabbed him turned him into a Terminator and hit him with nanobot technology.
What?
Yeah. So John Connor was a Terminator now. And that was in Genesis.
He hit him with nanobot technology.
And it was in the trailer. So the trailer had this trailer number.
How do I not remember this?
Trailer number 2.
You're making this up.
No, it's real. They actually did this. Like, you swear I'm reading a horrible rough draft of a fan film. This is a real movie.
Man.
All right. So okay. Trailer number 2. They spoiled John Connor's a Terminator.
Why?
I don't know what they were thinking. Okay.
That will get people in their seats.
Yeah. So the big Terminator for Genesis is John Connor, and he's the Terminator now. So that's the one they're fighting. He's a nanobot. There's a big fight where they stop Skynet from happening, and then they win, right? And this will tie into an episode we shoot at some point. End credit scene: the destroyed Skynet base flickers and turns on, and they didn't get him. He'll be back.
Oops.
He'll be back for another movie.
Okay.
And they killed John Connor too. Like they killed the Terminator version of him. So it's like,
that'll fix everything.
yeah. I apologize for telling
I want them
this
to
poorly.
explain how this fixed the movie.
Oh, and then so it's the original Arnold, right? The version where he's just a robot, but they accidentally knock him into the liquid Terminator goo, and he comes out a Terminator 2 T1000 model. So
because that's how it works.
yeah. I mean, why
it's
not?
magic.
Yeah, why not? All right.
Oh man. Okay, give him credit. It's not multiverse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was their excuse when the movie came out. It was like, well, it's not affecting the original movies. Skynet just the excuse. This wasn't in the movie. This was the behind the scenes. People tried to explain it,
nice.
but they said, well, Skynet just hopped to a different timeline and tried again, and failed.
Okay,
So
sure.
There
was one more movie, right? Well, I gotta hear how it ends.
I'll try to do this in 5 minutes.
Yes.
We might go over again. Sorry, guys.
It's okay. I don't need to hear this.
You hit record on the thing, right? I'm just making sure.
Yeah, we're going.
All right, good.
I need to hear this.
So the marketing push for Genesis was they got James Cameron. They paid it. They wrote him a big check, and they told him to sit in front of a camera. And he's like, "I believe the franchise has been reinvigorated. I think this is a renaissance." Like he watched the interview. He actually said that. Okay. Dark Fate, the guy that directed Deadpool 1, Tim Miller. He directs this movie. Produced by James Cameron. Story by James Cameron. Okay, that he's heavily involved. He helped reboot the franchise. Granted, he was really focusing on Avatar 2 through 20. Right. All right. So my favorite franchise. Shout out to episode 2.
Right.
Yeah. And this is his movie basically. New Terminator. No. Okay. Props. They fixed the CGI.
I heard.
So young Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor. We're back to this is a official sequel to Terminator 2. Okay. No more BS. Like Res Machines, forget it. Genesis, different timeline, didn't happen.
All right.
Salvation,
Gloves.
maybe. Okay. All right.
Gloves are off.
Okay.
All right.
CGI Linda Hamilton. She's sitting they're celebrating having beaten Terminator 2. We won. We beat the final boss. All right. They're sitting in Hawaii. They're drinking from the hula bar.
Oh.
Okay. They're eating a hula burger from McDonald's. All right. They got the guy that played John Connor back. They CGI'd him make look like a kid. He looked great. You couldn't tell. You couldn't tell it was CGI.
That's cool.
They're sitting there enjoying. You'd swear it was a deleted scene from Terminator 2. That's how
crazy.
good the CGI looked. Okay. Out of nowhere, a young Arnold also looks fantastic. Okay. You couldn't tell it was CGI.
That's crazy. So
they're sitting there enjoying their time. Young Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up and shoots John Connor. That is the opener to the movie.
That generally sounds like an AI write a bad opening to a Terminator movie.
And then suddenly Arnold shows up and shoots John Connor.
Shoots him in the face.
It pissed off the actor who played John Connor, but for some reason, they paid him. He signed on for the movie.
Who didn't that piss off?
It pissed off everybody.
Like, what are you thinking when you're a writer? Like,
let's just shoot the last movie in the face. Literally, that's what they did.
You know what this movie needs? A child being shot.
All right. So the first 2 minutes of the movie, they undermine Terminator 2.
Okay.
Story by James Cameron.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
They give him too much credit. He's George Lucas. Okay. I don't get it. So
why?
Okay, the new Terminator.
The same thing would happen if George Lucas directed the last 3 Star Wars movies, by the way, just so you guys know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he shoots him in the face.
Okay. Flash forward, Linda Hamilton looks like her now. She's old.
Okay.
She hated filming the movie because they made her lose a lot of weight, get into fighting shape, and she wasn't fat or anything. It's just she's old now and she doesn't want to do action movies, but she did it. And I believe her and James Cameron used to be married, so they had to push through the awkwardness of being divorced. Yeah. But they made it work. Okay. Linda, so that Terminator that shot John Connor went off and had a family. All right. He had because in that scene he shoots John Connor and then he just walks away. Mission complete.
Of course,
what's he supposed to do?
Good job, Arnold.
So he goes off and has a family.
He keeps saying that like it's
like it's normal. Well, the movie just showed, he did it, and his wife, the wife that he had, knew he was a robot, but she let it go.
Wow,
she just
they don't even make that.
No, okay. I think he's like a curtain salesman, window curtain salesman, or something. I don't remember, or maybe he makes them. I didn't watch. To be fair, I didn't watch this movie. I
I
read about it. Okay, but I watched the key scenes.
It sounds like we need to watch this film.
Maybe. All right, so that gets done. They send a Mexican Terminator back, or his Puerto Rican
that
actor.
I know of. Yeah, and she's like, It's a she, right?
No. Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. There's two Terminators. One is the main character. She's the new John Connor, where she's going to take over and fight Skynet in the future.
Yeah.
And then the guy that they send back to kill her is a Terminator, where he nanobot skin. His nanobot skin takes off of the Terminator body.
I hear these nanobots one more time.
Okay. So there's technically two Terminator villains. It's a Puerto Rican guy. I think he's Puerto Rican. Mm. His nanobot skin separates to where he can fight separately, and then the robot skeleton underneath fights separately. So it's like fighting two. I don't remember how they beat him, because who cares? They beat the Dark Fate Terminator. For some reason, he's on their side now. I think what happened... I think I read in the Wikipedia description where he beat John Connor, and then he realized, like, oh, that was a bad thing. I shouldn't have done it.
And then they'll hold hands.
Okay, so her, Linda Hamilton, and the main character Terminator is named Grace. They fight the Puerto Rican guy Terminator, and they beat him.
Nice.
Arnold dies, and he says for John. For John. So now he's pro John Connor, even though he already killed him. He's like, for John. And then he dies. They beat him. They beat the Puerto Rican guy. Right? Both versions, the skin and the metal. They beat him.
Yeah.
And then the end of the movie. I'm sorry, guys.
Weren't there like 3 women in this movie? Like
yeah,
Linda Hamilton, 3 John Connor women.
No, just 2.
Okay,
I remember now. The main Terminator also dies. Grace, the girl, she dies.
There was like a white woman, a Hispanic woman, and then Linda
but she's yeah.
Yeah.
I think she's Grace's mom. I didn't watch the movie, so I have to go back and see. Okay, I remember now though. Grace Terminator, she dies. She was from the future too.
Okay.
Okay, she's a Terminator. She dies, and at the end of the movie, Linda Hamilton, the Hispanic mom character, they're both sitting in a playground watching baby Grace play in a park. And then they say, we have to get her to set her up for other films. They look and they say, we got to prepare her now because it's just beginning. Okay, and that's the end of the movie. I know I told it poorly. I'm so sorry, but I mean, I got the gist of it.
I feel like
yeah.